Hey, babe.
Hey there, honeybee.
Okay, people have been making suggestions to you in the comments. And one person said that they thought you need to use a push stick no matter the size of the wood that you're using on the table saw or that you're cutting on the table saw. And what do you have to say back to that?
I personally find it just fine to use my hand on anything wider than about 4 inches. Anything narrower than that, I use the push stick. But in my experience, if you try and use the push stick on a really wide piece, it's really easy to push off. You have pressure on one side or the other more, and so you don't get a real good clean cut.
Oh, okay. So it'll veer a little bit.
Yeah. And so it won't be like a really good clean cut.
I see.
But on something this wide, I'm just taking the very edge off to make it so I've got a clean, smooth edge to slide along the saw when I'm making my more accurate cuts.
Okay, and how do you, someone was saying the reason you should use a stick is because it'll flip backwards, if the blade will flip it backwards. Well, and you told me what you do to prevent that.
Yeah,
what was that?
So I use my thumb to push forward and my fingers to hold down.
Okay.
Just like that. And a push stick, like this guy here, I'll be using it when I cut the smaller pieces, and it's also designed so that pushes and that holds down.
Okay, so
like
it's the same. Yeah.
Basically
same physics, basically.
Yeah, basically the same deal.
And then the is this the fence? This little.
Yeah.
Okay, and
this is the fence.
And that is pushed closer, and so
it will.
It's basically like a guide.
Yeah, it will be. It's out further now so that I can set the depth of the saw blade. Okay. So that's also a very important thing.
Okay.
So when you set the depth of the blade, or the height of the blade, you don't want it any higher than you absolutely have to have it.
Okay.
Now, what I've been taught is you only raise it so that there's half of the tooth above the height of the wood. Okay. And that way it's mostly concealed, right, and you don't have to worry about it being way up. I mean, that's...
Okay, and that's usually when accidents happen, is when it's too high.
That is exactly right. Okay. That's when accidents happen, is when it's too high.
And what type of saw are you using?
I am using a SawStop saw. It's a table saw with a brake system on it, so that if my finger ever touches the blade, it can sense it and it instantly stops.
And have you ever triggered it before?
I have not, because whether it has that feature or not, I treat a table saw just like a table saw, because machines malfunction. You just don't know.
Exactly. Yeah, there's a video you can look up on YouTube where I've described it to John before, and it's where somebody is pushing a hot dog through the blade. Yeah. And the second the hot dog touches the blade, it stops. Yeah. And that's because it detects moisture.
I've known somebody that did have it activate, and they told me that it didn't even break the skin.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So
and you used a regular table saw before this?
Yeah, until I got this, I have, for the last almost 20 years, used just a regular table saw.
Yeah. How do you feel about using a table saw?
It's not my favorite. However, it is also a very valuable tool, very useful tool. Most projects usually have to use it one way or another. And as long as you follow the safety rules, it doesn't matter if you're sighted or blind or whatever, you'll be safe.
That's awesome.
That's why they call them safety rules.
Yes. And you triple, quadruple check everything.
Oh yeah. Well, so something else I do is so I'll get my width all set here. Okay, and right now I'm just doing it by feel, because it's not, this part doesn't have to be laser accurate. I just need a clean surface to slide against the fence when I'm doing my more accurate cuts. There we go.
And how do you know where your fingers are in relation to the blade?
Well, that's what I'm going to show you as soon as I'm done.
Okay.
Getting this.
That's a common question that people ask.
Yeah. So I get my cut set up here. Something else that's important is to make an accurate cut with the table saw. You want to have at least a tiny piece of wood beyond the saw blade, and it helps it hold true. Even if it's only a paper thin piece, it really is important to have that because it helps your cut. Okay, so now that I have this all set, I take this piece of wood away and I feel what kind of, area I have between the fence and the blade. And then I take my hand and I use it to find some landmarks, such as this for the channel for the miter gauge. And then I'll use my hand like that and I'll feel exactly where everything's gonna be. And that way, when I push it through, I know my hand is gonna be clear and I know I'm gonna be safe.
That's awesome. That's so cool that you have those landmarks on the table saw to use.
Yeah, it helps a lot, and I always put my hand right up against that fence because I know that fence is the furthest part from the blade. And then anything that's, say, that narrow, like that, I use a pusher.
Okay.
Anything more narrow than that right there, I use a pusher.
Okay. And then when somebody in the, people inevitably in the comments will ask how you prevent kickback.
Well, so the way that I've learned to prevent kickback is you don't let go of the board. Even if you're switching to a push stick, you hold the board with one hand, you get your push stick with the other, you put your push stick on it, and then you don't let go until you've got control of it with the push stick. And that way, so what usually happens with kickback is the board is sitting there, it's allowed to vibrate, it twists a little bit, and there it goes. So as long as you maintain control of that board, it's not going to kick on you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
One more thing, you want to show your hands? People, that's another thing people always wonder. How many
10.
you got?
Yeah, I got all 10, and for the haters, I got both middle ones just for you.
Well, thank you so much for all of your knowledge.
Well, I'm happy to share it.
And I hope it helps other people too.
Me too. Be safe, everybody. Take care.